Today's story begins in the chaos of the Kansas frontier. It winds through the dinner table of a man who would change the course of history and ends up in the heart of New York City, where one woman's vision created an icon that has brought joy to millions of people. But before we get into that, if you're a fan of profound, historic, and timeless stories told in captivating detail, you're in the right place. That's all we do, and we upload twice a week. So if that sounds good to you, the next time someone invites you to go skating, say yes, but make sure you ask how much history is hidden under all this ice. And don't forget to like and subscribe to History so you never miss an upload. Okay, let's get into today's story. In the mid-1850s, Kansas Territory was more than a rugged frontier. It was a battlefield. The national debate over slavery had erupted into open violence, and Kansas was at the center of it all. Pro-slavery and anti-slavery factions fought bitterly, their clashes leaving homes destroyed, families torn apart, and towns engulfed in flames. The chaos was so extreme that the region earned the nickname Bleeding Kansas. Amid all this turmoil, the Woolman family arrived. Jewish immigrants from Germany, they had settled in New York City in 1851, but like so many others, they were drawn west by the promise of opportunity. In 1855, they moved to Leavenworth, Kansas, a town perched on the edge of both the frontier and a political powder keg. At the head of the family was Jonas Woolman, a resourceful and determined merchant. Jonas quickly established a very successful business in Leavenworth, but his success and his principles put him and his family in very grave danger. Jonas was an abolitionist, staunchly opposed to the spread of slavery. His store was located in the same building as the Territorial Register, an abolitionist newspaper edited by Mark W. DeLahey. DeLahey wasn't just a journalist, he was a key figure in Kansas politics and a distant relative of the man who would soon change the course of American history. Standing against slavery in Kansas was not just a political stance, it was a risk to your life. One night, a mob of pro-slavery supporters attacked the Territorial Register, threatening to burn the entire building down. Jonas's store was caught in the crossfire, and his own life became a target. The danger escalated to the point where Jonas had to be placed under protective custody to avoid being killed. His wife and infant daughter were harassed and detained multiple times, and eventually, the family was forced to flee Leavenworth altogether. But Jonas refused to back down. He returned to Leavenworth, rebuilt his business, and continued his fight against slavery. By 1859, his efforts had caught the attention of a rising political star, a man who had already begun shaping the Republican Party into a coalition of diverse voices. Jonas was one of 53 Kansas Republicans who invited this man to visit the territory, promising a warm welcome despite all the dangers. And against all odds, this man accepted. That December, Jonas Woolman hosted Abraham Lincoln for dinner. For Jonas, this dinner was more than just a meeting. It was a validation of his work and his ideals. For Lincoln, it was an opportunity to connect with people whose courage and conviction matched his own. This dinner would become a cornerstone of the Woolman family legacy, a symbol of their connection to history and their commitment to justice. Kate Woolman, Jonas's youngest daughter, wasn't born until 1869, 10 years after Lincoln's visit. But the story of that dinner was passed down through generations, shaping her understanding of her family's place in history. Kate grew up hearing about her father's bravery, his connection to Lincoln, and his role in the fight for equality. Those stories stayed with her even as she outlived her siblings and found herself the last keeper of her family's memory. By the late 1940s, Kate was 80 years old and alone. She had no children to pass her family's legacy to, and the weight of that responsibility pressed heavily on her. She wanted to create something permanent, something that would preserve her family's story and reflect the values that she had fought for. She turned her focus to New York City, the place where her family's journey had begun nearly a century earlier. New York City in the 1940s was a city bursting with life. The streets hummed with energy as taxis darted through traffic. The skyline was dominated by towering skyscrapers. Beneath the buzz of the city was Central Park, a green sanctuary that offered New Yorkers an escape from all the chaos. Kate envisioned something new for the park, a skating rink where families could come together, laugh, and make a whole lot of memories. It'd be a place that celebrated joy, community, and resilience. Kate donated $600,000, an enormous sum at the time, to build Woolman Rink. When the rink opened in 1950, it was an instant success. Families flocked to Central Park, bundling up in coats and scarves as they skated under the open sky. By day, children clung to the rails as they learned to glide across the ice. By night, couples skated hand in hand beneath strings of lights that sparkled like stars. Woolman Rink wasn't just a skating rink. It was a place where people came together, a living tribute to Kate's parents, her siblings, and the ideals they had stood for. For decades, Woolman Rink remained a beloved landmark. It hosted concerts, cultural events, and thousands of skaters every year. But by the late 1970s, the city was in trouble. New York faced a financial crisis, and Woolman Rink fell into disrepair. By 1980, it was closed entirely. Kate's vision seemed on the verge of completely disappearing. That's when a young, ambitious real estate developer stepped in. At the time, he wasn't yet a household name, but he was quickly making waves in New York as someone who could get things done. Frustrated by the city's failure to renovate the rink, after 6 years and millions of dollars, the developer made a bold offer. He would take over the project and finish it faster and cheaper than the city ever could. And he delivered. In 1986, Woolman Rink reopened, completed ahead of schedule and under budget. The success of the project catapulted the developer into the national spotlight, setting the stage for an extraordinary career. That developer was Donald Trump, who 40 years later would be elected the 45th and then the 47th president of the United States. For Trump, the Woolman Rink project was a defining moment. For New Yorkers, it was the return of a cherished public space, a reminder of their city's resilience and the power of a shared vision. Kate Woolman passed away in 1955, but her legacy endures today. Woolman Rink continues to be a hub of joy and connection for millions of visitors each year. It remains a symbol of perseverance, community, and the enduring values that Kate and her family held dear.
If you like profound, historic, and timeless stories, check out Heathstory. New episodes twice weekly only on the Jim Heath channel. Subscribe and like now, and we'll see you next time.